Hello and welcome back to Animated Banners with CSS. In our last lesson, we created the HTML for our banner, and I've taken the files that we worked with in the banner01 folder and I've moved them into a new folder, so all of the changes that we make in this lesson will be saved in this new folder, which is called banner02. So if you're following along with your own files, your files at the start of this video should match the files that you'll find in the banner01 folder. And then once we make our changes and save our changes at the end of this video, they should match the files in the banner02 folder. And that's how we're going to work as we move forward. So now that we've gotten our HTML in place, I want to start styling it by creating the background for our banner. Now, if you remember, our banner is contained in this div that has a class of banner, and inside that div, we have a few images, a couple of h3 tags, and a few paragraphs that contain all of our content. Now again, you're probably not going to have a banner like this that's just floating on a page by itself. There's probably going to be a lot of HTML around this banner. So just to clear things up a little bit and make things a little easier to read, I want to put a comment after this closing div tag down here, just to remind us what div we're closing with this particular closing tag. So again, I'm going to put a comment here that just says banner. And all that is telling us is that this div closes our opening div with a class of banner. So now let's get started with some CSS. So I'm going to create a new file in our banner02 folder, and I'm going to call that new file banner.css. And in TextMate, it automatically opens that new file for us. And now I want to create a rule for that banner class. And remember that banner class is the class that's applied to the div that contains all of the content for our banner. So in our banner class, I want to set the width and height of our banner and put the background image in place. And then I want to round off the corners a little bit. So we'll start by creating a rule for the banner class by typing dot banner and then our opening and closing curly brackets. And then inside those curly brackets, we'll set the width and height, set our width to 900 pixels, and our height is going to be 300 pixels. Next, I want to go ahead and put our background image. So we're going to go to the next line here, and we're going to call on the background property, and we're going to point to the URL for our image. So inside parentheses and inside single quotes, we'll type the URL for our image, which is located in the img folder / and then if we open up that folder, we can see the names of all of our images, and the one we're looking for is banner-bg.jpg. So it's going to be img / banner-bg.jpg. Then outside the parentheses here, I want to position the background image in the top left corner, and I don't want it to repeat. So we're going to put no hyphen repeat there. And that should take care of our background image. So let's save our CSS file. And it's not going to work yet because we haven't linked to that CSS file. But if we go into our HTML file, just beneath our title tags, inside the head of our document, we're going to create a link tag. I'm going to set relationship, or rel, equal to style sheet. And we'll set our href to the URL of our style sheet, which is simply banner.css, since it's in the same folder as this HTML file. Now, on a fully functional site, you might actually have your CSS files inside a subfolder. But for this particular HTML file, we're just going to keep it in the same folder. So we're just pointing to banner.css. So now let's save that. And let's open up banner.html in our browser and see how it looks. So we'll drag this over and expand that out. So as we can see, our banner is in place, and you can also see that one of our snow images is already in place on top of our banner. Now the other snow image with the larger flakes is on the page too, but it's down here in this empty blank white space, so we can't really see it. And as we move down, we can see our third image, and then we can see our text down here at the bottom. But we've got our banner in place. Now I want to round the corners off. So let's go back into our code and let's jump into our CSS file. And we're going to use the border radius property, border-radius, to round the corners. And I'm going to round it by 20 pixels. So I'm going to round it quite a bit. So let's save that and refresh our page. And now we have some rounded corners. Now keep in mind that some older versions of browsers don't support this border radius property. But we can make sure that more browsers support it if we include a few vendor prefixes here. So I'm going to highlight this line of code and copy it. I'm going to paste it 3 times. And for the first one, I'm going to add a vendor prefix of -WebKit border radius for older versions of WebKit browsers such as Chrome. Then for the next line, we're going to add a prefix of -MOZ border radius for Mozilla browsers. And then for the third one, -O border radius. And that will just cover some more bases. It's not going to change anything on the file we're looking at right now because I'm using the latest version of Chrome. But that will cover our bases in case somebody's using an older version of one of these browsers. So let's save that and then just refresh our page one more time to make sure it's still working okay and our corners are still rounded, so that's good. So the last thing I want to do here is I want to center the banner in the page, and we're going to do that using the margin property. So we'll come up here just below width and height. We'll go to the next line here, and I'm going to set our margins here to 0 space auto, and that will horizontally center it in the page. So we'll save again, refresh our page, and there we go. So now that we've got our banner background in place, we can move forward and start styling the rest of our content. So thank you for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.